Hello, and welcome to the Strength for Special Needs Parenting podcast. I'm Heather Smith, and today's episode, we are going to be talking about discussing navigating grief as a special needs parent. So, special needs parenting comes with so much grief in so many different forms and different ways. And today we have special needs mom and Reverend Juliette Osborne with us, who is a nurse practitioner that specializes in mental health and grief. She runs her own practice where she takes a faith-based holistic approach to patient care. And I would love to turn the mic over to you so we can hear a little bit about you and what you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, Heather. So, as you correctly stated already, I hold many titles. And I am humbly Reverend Dr. Juliette Osborne, psychiatric and family nurse practitioner, and a proud parent of Imani, a child with severe special needs. And my journey is so difficult, but as we continue to speak during this podcast, it will become apparent to you how um, difficult journeys can turn into something beautiful to help other people. So I run a successful private practice, and I'm physically located in Mount Laurel, southern New Jersey, but I am licensed in New Jersey, Massachusetts, Colorado, and Delaware. And I see medical, psychiatric, substance use patients. I also see veterans for their disability assessments, both for medical and psychiatric. And I do this in honor of my daughter, Imani. And what is so beautiful about what I do is I manage my time. So what I do at my practice and taking care of Imani comes in harmony. And together we bring hope to other patients, other families. We share with them what our journey has been and how every day is a miracle that we don't take for granted, even whilst we go through this grieving stage.
Yes. So, my first question for you is, how is grief in special needs parenting different from other types of grief?
Thank you so much, Heather, for this question. So, grief is often associated with loss, but in the world of special needs parenting, it takes on a chronic and cyclical form, one that is both identical to and distinct from conventional grief. As Dr. Juliette Osborne and a parent of a child with severe special needs, I understand firsthand that the grief is not about mourning a life lost, but rather the expectations, dreams, and ease of typical parenting that may never come to fruition. Why is it the same? Like traditional grief, parents of children with disabilities experience loss. The loss of a typical childhood, anticipated milestones, and societal norms. The emotional response includes denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, mirroring the well known Kubler-Ross grief cycle. However, in special needs parenting, this cycle is not linear. It recurs with every missed milestone, every medical diagnosis, every inaccessible opportunity, and every societal barrier that reminds parents of what could have been.
Oh my
Why?
gosh, yes. Sorry, I
Yes.
just wanted to step in and say, yes, I grieve every time we go to a playground and it's not accessible. I grieve when we go to a store and it's not accessible, or like all kinds of stuff that my kids can't do what other kids can do. So, yes, it's a constant grieving process.
Absolutely. And I even have more. Uh, why is it different? Unlike unlike traditional grief, which typically has an endpoint, This grief is lifelong for us and intertwined with immense love, joy, and resilience. Parents simultaneously celebrate their child's unique progress while grieving societal limitations and daily struggles. Oh boy, can I identify with this myself. The emotional weight is compounded by chronic stress, medical complexities, financial burdens, and advocacy exhaustion, requiring unwavering endurance. Additionally, isolation faced by special needs families often exacerbates the grieving process as many struggle to find communities that truly understand their experiences. And with
Yes, and
that,
that's where I come in. That's exactly what I do is I offer a community for special needs parents where they can all come together and talk about all of their problems and the unique things that we experience as special needs families. Because it is, you feel very alone and left out of typical life from other people.
and you don't fit in anywhere. And
Right. It feels like
so,
you never fit in, right.
yes, yes. And with that, I want to end this question with the last part, the strength in the journey. Despite its weight, this grief fosters unparalleled resilience, deep faith, and transformative love. Many parents find themselves becoming advocates, warriors, and sources of inspiration, navigating a world that was not built with their child in mind. The key to thriving is acceptance, not of limitations, but of a different, beautiful, complex journey where hope and grief coexist. This is not a path of despair, but one of extraordinary strength, unwavering devotion, and profound purpose. Managing the emotional up and downs of special needs parenting require a combination of emotional resilience, practical strategies, and strong support systems.
Yes, definitely. So, what do you recommend for people to do? Like, what practices or therapies do you recommend for your patients to help with the emotional ups and downs?
Absolutely. So, the first thing that I recommend, and do this almost on a weekly basis with at least one or two patients, is faith and mindset shift. That's the first one that I want to talk about. That you lean on faith, trusting in God's plan, and seeking strength through prayer, scripture, and worship can bring peace in difficult moments. Redefine success, where we celebrate progress no matter how small and embrace a new perspective of what fulfillment looks like. We also learn to practice gratitude, focusing on what is good and beautiful in our child's journey can shift perspective. We, excuse me, we also talk about supports and connections, where we find a strong community such as yours, connecting with other special needs parents, support groups, faith based communities, or online forums helps reduce isolation. And this is why I am in multiple special needs groups. Therapy and counseling, seeking professional supports, including faith based therapy, can help process emotions and build coping skills. Advocates but sets boundaries. Balancing advocacy and self care prevents burnout. The next thing that we speak about is practical self care and coping strategies. We prioritize rest and well being. Adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and exercise help regulate emotions. We schedule breaks, taking time for yourself, even if it's just walking around your neighborhood, 10, 15 minutes per day. Even in small ways, helps recharge emotional energy.
Yes,
Journaling.
absolutely. I always tell people move your body. Like just a quick walk is a great way to decrease anxiety, decrease stress, it increase all your happiness hormones. So I also always recommended that to people.
Absolutely. One that is very big for me, and this is not just to special needs population, but this is to every patient that I see. Journaling and reflection. Writing down thoughts, prayers, or progress help helps to process emotions. Okay. And the next thing that I want to talk about is from a professional and medical support. You have to rely on a care team. Having trusted medical, educational, therapeutic professionals ease the burden of navigating everything alone. Also, seeking respite care. Taking breaks through respite services or trusted caregivers allows for emotional and physical renewal. And I want to end with accept the journey. Allow yourself to grieve. Acknowledge feelings of sadness, frustrations, and exhaustion without guilt. Embrace both joy and sorrow. The journey is complex, but it's also full of emotions of deep love, growth, and purpose.
Yes, and that was one thing I was going to ask you also is how can parents give themselves permission to grieve while they're still showing up for their child?
Absolutely, absolutely. Many a times, many people feel stuck. And in moments of deep grief, when the weight of special needs parenting feels overwhelming, it can be difficult to see a way forward. The key is not to focus on an escape from grief, but to move through it with faith, self compassion, and intentional action. And here's how. You want to first acknowledge the pain without guilt. Name the emotion, say it loud or write it down. I feel overwhelmed, exhausted, or heartbroken. Give yourself permission. Grief is not a sign of weakness, it's a natural response to ongoing reality. Number two, you want to turn to God for strength. Pray honestly. Pour out your heart to God. He already knows our struggles. Meditate on scriptures. Verses like Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. And in Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you, can be deeply comforting. Worship through the pain. Playing God's worship music or simply sitting in God's presence can shift the emotional burden. Number three, ground yourself in the presence. Take one small action. Make a cup of tea, step outside, or take deep breaths. These small resets can help break emotional paralysis. Use mindfulness. Focus on what you can control right now. Slow down your thoughts and anchor yourself in the moment. Lean into gratitude. Find one thing to appreciate, even in the storm. Number four, connect yourself with supports. Reach out to someone, a trusted friend, therapist, pastor, or support group can provide perspective. Don't isolate. Even a short conversation or hug can lighten the burden. Allow others to help. Let people pray for you, assist practically, or just sit with you in your grief. Number five, shift your focus to purpose. And this is where I personally am in my journey. Remind yourself of why. Your child's life, your faith, and the impact you make in all have meaning. Reframe the moments. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Try asking, how can I grow through this? Take a step forward. Even a small act of care for yourself or your child can bring a sense of purpose and momentum. Number six, accept that grief and joy can coexist. Moving forward does not mean eliminating grief. It means learning to carry it differently.
Mm,
Even in sorrow,
I love
moments of laughter, love, and peace will arise. Embrace them without guilt. And finally, trust that God's grace is sufficient for every season, even when we feel stuck.
I love that. That's so great.
Thank you.
Ugh. So, what advice do you have for parents that are struggling currently with grief? I mean, you've kind of already given a lot of it, but do you have any other advice, like from your own experiences also with your own child even? Because I know your
I,
daughter has a lot of seizures, correct?
yes, my daughter can have up to 40 seizures a day. So
Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
it, yes, yes. So what I want to say is, um, giving yourself permission to grieve while still caring for your child. This is very, very important. As a parent, as a special needs parent, it can feel like there's no room for your own grief because your child needs you, which is rightfully so. But suppressing grief doesn't make it disappear. It lingers, affecting your well being and your ability to show up fully for your child.
Thank
What you
you. So one thing that I find with people is that they're like, I don't want to feel my feelings. I feel like it's in our society that we're not supposed to feel our feelings. You know, there's the whole big girls don't cry or boys don't cry. And then what people don't realize is our emotions get stuck in our body. They don't just go away and disappear.
No, it doesn't. And you will see that we can grieve and care for our child as at the same time. And here's how we can do it. We do this by one acknowledging that grief is not selfish. Many parents feel guilty grieving because they love their child deeply. Grief does not mean you love your child any less. It means you are human. Accept that you can hold two truths at once. Immense love for your child and sorrow over the challenges they face or the dreams that had to shift. Set aside moments for grief. Allow yourself space to feel the emotions without rushing through them. This might look like taking 5 minutes in the car before going inside. Many years ago, when my daughter was around 2, 3, I made a promise never to cry or grieve in front of her because whenever I cried and I looked at her face, she felt very guilty. So, what I do is exactly what I'm sharing here. I take 5 minutes in the car before going inside. I journal after my child is asleep. I say a quiet prayer or reflection moment in the morning. I give myself intentional space, which helps to prevent emotions from building up and overflowing unexpectedly. I also lean into faith and reflection. So I pray through the grief. I bring my emotions to God without shame. And a scripture that really has helped me is Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Let scripture comfort you. Psalm 56:8. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your battle. Reminds us that God sees and honors our pain. Talk to God as you care for your child. Even in the middle of daily tasks, invite God into your struggle. Now, the next thing that you can do, and we spoke about this already, is to seek support and release the pressure. You don't have to carry this alone. Allow trusted family, friends, or support groups to walk aside you. Therapy, pastoral counseling, or parent supporting groups can provide validation and relief. Release the expectation of perfection. You don't have to have it all together every day. Some days are harder than others, and that's perfectly okay. Let your child see your humanity. It's okay for your child to see you express emotions. Modeling healthy grief teaches them resilience. Resilience. If they ask you why you sad, you can say, Mommy or Daddy is feeling a little sad, but I am okay. I love you so much. This reassures them that emotions are natural and don't change your love or stability. Grieve, but also allow joy. Sometimes grief can make you feel guilty for enjoying life, but joy does not dishonor grief. Celebrate the small victories, cherish the beautiful moments, and know that happiness and sadness can coexist in this journey. Trust that healing is a process. Grief in special needs parenting is ongoing, but you will learn to carry it differently with time. Allow yourself grace. God is with you in every tear, every struggle, and every moment of strength. So, if you are in the midst of grief as a special needs parent, know that you're not alone. Your emotions are valid, and there's no right way to process the complex feelings that comes with this journey.
What about the people that would say, like, I'm afraid? I've had clients that have said, like, oh, I'm afraid to feel because it's too painful, and then I get stuck. What if I get stuck there? What do you have to say about that? Like, is
And
there a way to get stuck in grief?
that's a loaded question, but it begins with acknowledging the pain without guilt. It's okay to
Yes.
grieve the life you envisioned for your child while still loving them completely. You don't have to minimize your emotions just because others may not understand. Your grief is real, and so is your love. Let go of the shoots. You may feel pressure to be strong all the time, but you don't have to have it all figured out. Don't compare your griefs to others because this journey is uniquely yours. You
Yeah.
take it a day at a time. That is one that I specialize in for myself. Grief can feel overwhelming when you think about the future. Instead, focus on the next step, not on the entire staircase. Small moments of peace, progress, or connection with your child are victories worth embracing. Find a safe space to express your feelings, whether it's journaling and you can journal and you can burn it, therapy, prayer, or talking to a trusted friend. Letting out your emotions prevents them from becoming too heavy to bear. Connecting with other parents who understand can provide a sense of validation and community.
Oh,
And
absolutely. I have people that will hop on my call and they don't even talk and they just, and I'll say something to them and they'll just be bawling their eyes out and they're like, I just feel so seen and so heard just listening to everybody talk about their own experiences because they are so unique from, everybody else in the world, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And for the faith believing parents, hold on to faith and hope. It's okay to ask why God. He welcomes our honesty. Lean onto your faith even when answers don't come right away. As we shared in Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. Be gentle with yourself. This is one that is so difficult. We can forgive everyone, we can hope for everyone, but we can't forgive ourselves or be gentle with ourselves. Grief is exhausting. Give yourself permission to rest. Your best today may look different from your best yesterday, and that's perfectly okay. Taking care of your own well being is not selfish, it allows you to show up more fully for your child. Allow joy to
Absolutely.
exist alongside grief. You can experience both sorrow and joy at the same time. Celebrate the small wins, the little moments of laughter, and the love you share with your child. Finding joy does not mean you are over your grief, it means you are learning to carry it with grace. And finally, remember that healing is a journey. Grief in special needs parenting doesn't have a final chapter, but it evolves over time. As you continue to laugh, advocate, and grow, you will find strength in places you never expected. You are doing an incredible job. Your grief does not define you. Your love, resilience, and devotion do.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. So, what are your biggest lessons or silver linings that you found in your own grief journey?
Absolutely. So, grief has been my greatest teacher. It has reshaped my perspective, deepened my faith, and revealed a strength I never knew I had. Walking this journey as both a mother to a child with severe special needs, and as a healthcare provider, and as an ordained reverend minister, I have learned that some of the greatest blessings are found in the middle of the storm. I'm going to talk about the beauty in the brokenness. Grief teaches us to release the life we expected and embrace the life we have been given. There are moments when I feel stuck, mourning milestones my daughter might never reach, feeling the weight of endless medical battles, and wrestling with the isolation that comes with being a special needs parent. But in those very moments of despair, I discovered something profound. God's grace fills the cracks of our brokenness.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm moving on this toward this other part. Closed doors were the best redirection. So many a times when my patients come to me and they are so overwhelmed, they so desperate, I remind them of this very thing that I'm going to share with you. Some of my biggest blessings came out of closed doors. I keep telling my patients that they won't be connected to me if I didn't have closed doors. One of the hardest losses that I faced was the inability to work for any employer during COVID due to the demands of caring for my daughter myself. At
Yes.
that time, it felt like everything was being stripped away, including financial security, career stability, and the structure I had worked so hard to build. But what I saw was a setback. What I saw as a setback was actually a setup for something greater, something my patients really enjoy hearing me tell them day to day. Had I not been forced to pivot, I never would have built my own practice, PJO Health Services, which stands for Pastor Juliette Osborne, where God showed me the vision that He's giving me a sheep in which represents the patients that I take care of. The very thing I thought would break me because became my breakthrough. Today, I serve others in a way that honors both my professional calling and my role as a devoted mother. I learned that when God closes a door, He isn't punishing you, He's repositioning you. The blessings you only receive in the storm. Some gifts come only through suffering. Grief taught me patience, resilience, and an unwavering dependence on God. Here are a few of the blessings hidden in the storms of life. Faith beyond feelings. When nothing makes sense, faith carries you. I have seen God's provisions in ways I never found or would have if life had gone according to my plans. Strength I didn't know I had. Every challenge has made me stronger. I now advocate fiercely, not just for my daughter, but for other families walking similar paths and for the veterans that I serve. Deepen compassion. Grief opened my heart to the struggle of others. As a provider, I understand pain in a way textbooks could never have taught me. Purpose born from pain. Had I not experienced these trials, I wouldn't be where I am today. leading a successful practice, uplifting others, and creating a life where my work and family remain in harmony. Moving forward with grace. The biggest lesson I have learned is that grief and joy are not opposites, they coexist. I have learned to celebrate the small victories, cherish the love that surrounds me, and trust that even in waiting, God is working all things together for good. To anyone walking a similar road, your grief is real, but so is your purpose. When one door closes, trust that a greater one is being prepared for you. Keep going, keep trusting, and know that even in the storm, you are never alone. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, I thank you so much for being here with us today. That was so beautiful. I'm so glad you joined me today for this. And I hope that it helps so many other special needs families because like you said, the grief just never stops in special needs parenting. So we definitely need to learn how to work through it. Or else we're not going to be able to regulate our emotions later on when it all piles up on us like you discussed. Thank you everyone for being here with us today. If you'd like to work with Juliette, I will put all of her information for her website in the description of this podcast, and you will be able to reach her there. I will also have the link to my private Facebook community group where we do weekly Zoom calls to provide support for special needs families. So thank you so much for being with us, Reverend Dr. Juliette. I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Heather, for having me. It's been my pleasure, and God gets all the glory.
Thank you.